I'll never forget the moment my heart dropped. The instant my entire world shifted from something steady and familiar to something fragile and foreign. It wasn't a fight or a dramatic confession. It was one small action so ordinary on the surface, but it carried a weight I still feel to this day. That was the moment I realized my marriage wasn't as unshakable as I believed, and that I was about to make a choice that would change everything. I've been married to Daniel for 12 years. To most people, we were the kind of couple that made marriage look easy. The shared laughter at dinner parties, the hand-holding during neighborhood walks, the comfortable silences that come from knowing someone so well. We met in college, built our careers side by side, and created a little life that felt safe and predictable. Safe and predictable. Two words I didn't know could also be dangerous. Over time, our marriage shifted into something functional rather than romantic. We still cared deeply for each other, but passion wasn't part of our vocabulary anymore. Life became a checklist of responsibilities. Bills, work schedules, grocery runs. Our conversations revolved around car maintenance, home repairs, and whose turn it was to call Daniel's mother. I told myself this was normal, that long-term love was supposed to settle into something steady. Then came the day I met Alex. Alex was a contractor Daniel had hired to help with a major renovation in our kitchen. Daniel couldn't be there during the day because of work, so I was the one coordinating everything. From the moment Alex stepped into our home, I noticed things I shouldn't have. The confidence in his voice, the easy way he laughed, how he seemed to take up space without even trying. He was younger than Daniel, maybe by 5 or 6 years, but carried himself like someone who'd seen enough of life to know how to handle it. The first time I helped him lift a heavy piece of cabinetry, I had to use both hands. The weight of it was real, but so was the tension in that moment. The brief closeness, the subtle electricity that made me suddenly aware of the silence in our house. I remember feeling my pulse quicken, and I hated myself for it. Over the next few weeks, I found myself looking forward to the days Alex came by. We'd talk while he worked. Nothing scandalous, just casual conversations about music, travel, and little observations about life. But somewhere under the surface, there was a pull I couldn't ignore. One afternoon, the conversation turned personal. He asked about my marriage, not in a prying way, but with a quiet curiosity that made me feel seen. I admitted more than I should have. That Daniel and I had grown distant, that I missed feeling desired, that I sometimes wondered if this was just how all long-term relationships ended up. Alex didn't offer advice. He just listened, really listened, in a way I hadn't felt in years. And that's when it happened, the shift from emotional connection to temptation. It wasn't dramatic. There was no movie-like scene of reckless passion. It was a lingering touch when he handed me a tool. The way his eyes met mine and didn't look away. The feeling that he understood parts of me I had almost forgotten existed. I told myself it was harmless. I told myself I was just enjoying attention, nothing more. But deep down I knew I was lying. I knew that when I smiled at Alex, it wasn't the polite smile of a homeowner to a worker. It was the smile of a woman remembering she could still feel something other than responsibility. Then one day I crossed the line. It wasn't physical, not in the way people usually define it. But emotional betrayal can be sharper, more insidious. Alex stayed late to finish a part of the project. Daniel was still at work. We ended up in the kitchen, talking long after the tools had been put away. The room was dim, the smell of sawdust still in the air, and I told him things I had never told Daniel. My fears about getting older, my resentment at feeling invisible, my longing for something I couldn't even fully name. When Alex reached out and took my hand, I didn't pull away. I just stood there, holding on to him with both hands, as if letting go would mean sinking back into the emptiness I'd been living in. It was only a few seconds, but it was enough. Enough to know that I'd done something I couldn't take back. Nothing physical happened after that. We both stepped back, the moment hanging in the air like something fragile and dangerous. He left soon after, and the next day, he finished the job and didn't linger. But the damage had been done. Not to my marriage, not yet, but to my own sense of integrity. I couldn't stop replaying it in my mind, wondering what it meant, what it said about me. Daniel never found out. We still live our life as if nothing happened. But I know I allowed myself to drift too close to someone else, to seek connection outside the vows I promised to honor. People think betrayal is all about the act, the kiss, the affair, the obvious crossing of a line. But I've learned it can happen quietly, without anyone else even noticing. It's the moment you give part of yourself to someone who has no right to it. I sometimes wonder if I would have gone further if Alex had stayed, if he had leaned in instead of stepping back. That thought terrifies me because I don't know the answer. I only know that for a few seconds, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, and that I'm still paying the emotional price for it. Daniel and I are still together. I'm trying to rebuild what I allowed to erode. I've learned that love isn't just about avoiding the big mistakes. It's about guarding against the small ones that can quietly hollow you out. And I've learned that temptation doesn't arrive with flashing lights or grand gestures. Sometimes it comes disguised as a moment where you just have to use both hands and realize you're holding more than you can handle.